Political tensions are increasing in Sudan as parties continue to face challenges in the implementation of the Juba Peace Agreement. The deal was signed by the Sudanese government and the Sudan Revolutionary Front rebel alliance in October. There are now reports that some leaders of the SRF rebel alliance that signed the peace agreement are being detained by the General Intelligence Service in some regions in Sudan. Well, just last week, Friday, 17 members of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement North faction were reportedly detained by heavily armed military forces whilst holding a seminar on the implementation of the peace accord. For more on what's happening in Sudan, I'm now joined by the General Secretary of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement North, Amar Amoun Deldoum. Thanks so much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So you're in South Africa. What has brought you here?
Well, we are in South Africa. This organization called Accord, they have facilitated a workshop on the September 3rd agreement signed by SPLM-North Chairman Abdelaziz Adam Al-Helu and the Prime Minister of Sudan. So after that, they have agreed to, organize a workshop on negotiation skills for the SPLM delegation team. So that's why we are here attending the workshop.
All right, so there was so much hope when the peace accord was signed and optimism, but it looks as if it's being derailed by certain elements. Take us through some of those challenges.
That peace agreement which has been signed between the interim government of Khartoum and the SRF groups, that track has actually 5 factions. That means 5 tracks, and there are 5 different peace agreement has been signed by elements within Sudan's Revolutionary Forces group. That agreement, we knew it's an implementable agreement. First, it has no grantors. That is one. Second, there is no any country that committed financial resources for the implementation of that peace process. And in addition to that, that peace agreement has been signed on the 3rd of October. Up until now, there is no implementation, even though the groups who have signed the peace agreement already went to Khartoum. And because of lack of resources and lack of grantors and lack of donors which should have pledged some financial support to the peace agreement, that is why even the implementation of that peace process has not been kicked off. In addition to that, government security elements are rampant, detaining people, and not only that, even attacking the displaced people and re-displacing them again in their, displaced camps. So we don't see any future of that peace agreement to bring stability and peace in Sudan.
What will bring peace and stability in Sudan? What needs to happen?
The government, the interim government in Khartoum need to show, the commitment, its real commitment for peace in Sudan. The revolution started and toppled and brought down the religious state in Khartoum. But the military element in sovereign council are the ones controlling the power in Sudan, sidelining the prime minister who has been brought by the revolutionary groups. And I can say, as SPLM-North Secretary General, part of the, the political process in Sudan, that the elements of the older regime, which has been toppled by the revolution, are still influencing power while behind the bars. So that's why the government is reluctant to take real steps that bring substantial peace and stability in the country. There is fighting going on in different parts of Darfur, in Eastern Sudan, Port Sudan, Kassala, Al Gadarif, in Southern Kordofan, in South Kordofan, Blue Nile. Despite the unilateral declaration of ceasefire by both sides, SPLM-North and government, but you might have seen there is no stability in Sudan. And actually, the prices of the essential commodities are soaring up. That's why people are thinking, and we know very well that revolution has been hijacked by the military elements of the Sovereign Council who is ruling Sudan now.
All right, so remind us why we have a problem with peace. What is the main aim of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement North? What are you fighting for? What is it that you're wanting to achieve?
Well, SPLM-North is a national movement and organization which is fighting and struggling to establish a secular, democratic, united state in Sudan, so that the 65 years of recurrent civil wars should stop once and for all. Sudan, since its independence, has not seen stability, tranquility, and peace. It's, Sudan has been, undergoing constant military coups and, constitutional breakdown of the governments and interim periods. That all shows there is something seriously wrong that could not help the successive regime to preserve the constitutional governance of Sudan. So we need to establish this by, establishing a secular state in Sudan. Now Sudan is ruled by Sharia laws, and there is no room for democracy in Sharia laws. And the revolution started to bring down the religious state. But as I said, the military components of the government of Sudan, they are following footsteps of what happened in Egypt. The same elements of former regime took over power and controlling everything, so that the leaders who are behind the bar should not be prosecuted for the crimes they have committed in Darfur, Nuba Mountains, and Blue Nile. So we are fighting to Now we are fighting to establish a secular, democratic, united state in Sudan. That is our aim.
All right, so perhaps one final question. Whilst you should be keeping your eyes on Khartoum, we see that the SPLM itself is fighting itself with factions, the SPLM-North Agar, SPLM-North Al-Hilu. How does this help your cause when you are busy fighting each other?
No, actually we are not fighting, we are not... Sorry for the disruption. We are not fighting among ourselves. You know, Malik Agar, the former chairman of the SPLM-North, and also Yasser Arman, former Secretary General of the SPLM-North.
All right, okay, it looks like we're having trouble there maintaining that conversation with the General Secretary of the SPLM-North, who's here in South Africa, Mr. Amar Amoun Deldoum, who says he was about to explain that the SPLM, which is split into two factions, saying that no, we're not fighting each other, so they continue with their cause to find peace and stability in Sudan with some equity and justice for the people of particularly South Kordofan and the Blue Nile.